Hello?
Yeah, welcome back. Is this still recording?
No, it's fine now.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
No worries. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. My name is Chilotam Obiora Chibundu, and I'll be speaking on academic success, proven strategies for academic success beyond good grades. We've already lost some time, so I'll try to be as fast as I can. I want to believe we've been having great fun since morning on the other aspect of the conference. And by God's grace, we'll also be blessed to have listening to this. Okay, so I'll just go straight to the point. We're talking about academic success in academics beyond just the good grades. And the first question I would like to ask is academic success. Now, when we say academic success, what do we believe or what do we understand as academic success? And for me, it's the extent to which a student can achieve their academic goals, and that includes completing courses, earning degrees, developing critical thinking skills, and translating classroom teaching to practical real life situations. I've seen people who came out with first class grades in school, but when given real life situations, they cannot translate that skill or knowledge to it. So I wouldn't term that as a success because the idea of academic success is that you're able to bring in whatever you were taught in school, whatever you learned, whatever it is, through real life situations, if not to end on the paper. And we want more than that. So it goes beyond the student achieving a good grade or in class or standardized test. Academic success is both tangible, or rather encompasses both tangible and intangible aspects of learning. It focuses on performance and understanding and fostering critical thinking and innovation. So it's not just about the good grades, like I said, but it's striving to do our best in achieving academic goals. And so my first question to us this afternoon is, what are your academic goals? When you step into a class, when you step into an exam hall, when you go into a school, when you decide to take up a course, what is your goal? Take a minute or two to think about it because your goal will determine how you go about that study. If my goal is to just be present in class, get a certificate to show that I once went to school, then my goal is different from someone whose plan is to ace all courses in A's. And if so, there are many goals. What is your academic goal? Ask yourself that question because that will now determine the next step. And it will also determine your study strategies. So that's a question you answer within yourself. What is your academic goal? Why are you in school? What do you aim to get at the end of it all? Why do you bother to keep sleepless nights, go through all the rigors of studies? What is your academic goal? And then I also want to ask us to look at this question. Why do we even need academic success? Isn't it enough to just go to school and flow through the system and come? Why do you have to succeed in it? Because I hear statements like education is a scam. So if education is a scam, why then do we want to spend that much time studying and then succeeding in it? Well, this I'll call it this statement, education is a scam, is what we get from, well, part of the reason is youth. We get many of our youth saying this due to their laziness. Some are gullible. Some in their quest to get rich quick and lack of perseverance. Some view education as a long process of achieving their aim in life. So they term it a scam. Is also the mindset of those who, after acquiring education, have no place in the labor market. I have two cousins who dropped out of school, out of university in their final year. They lived in Onitsha. Their father was a businessman, right in, I don't know which one of the big markets in Onitsha. So they grew up in that setting. And they saw their mates who they went to secondary school with at 4 years after driving big cars, owning big shops, doing big things, and they were still in school. And they just felt it was a waste of time. And they dropped out of school. And I remember then the mom called me and my siblings, and we were like, please, we should speak to these her sons. That it's, we called them, we said, look, it's just 1 year to go. Persevere. They said no. That their friends are already riding cars, their friends are already building houses, that during Christmas they went home, their friends were doing great things and they were just there, that what exactly are they, and they dropped out. Recently, one of them reached out to me wanting financial aid to migrate from Russia to Canada. He's been in Russia illegally, doing all sorts of things, and he now wants to go. I was like, okay, how are you going to Canada? He said he's going in a ship or something. So you're even going there illegal. So his life has been a mess. Why? Because he allowed this story of education is a scam to get to him. And I want to tell you today that education is not a scam. Oprah Winfrey said something. He said education is the key to unlocking the world, a passport to freedom. And so when you look at education as the key to unlocking the world and the passport to freedom, then you will be able to persevere to get what it takes to achieve academic success. It is important to achieve success in our academics because it is essential for our successful development in the society. Also, students who excel in school are likely to transition to adulthood and achieve occupational and economic success. There is a difference when you see two people who are running a business. There is always that touch of difference from one who had some bit of education and one who didn't. The mindset, the approach to business, the risk taking, the financial handling is there's always a difference. So there's an edge when you have academic success backing up whatever it is you want to do in life. There is nothing that stops you from being who you want to be, but having success in your academics is a plus in everything you want to do. And so it's also important that we have academic success because it provides a long-term, like I already mentioned, foundation for future opportunities. And then the life is so dynamic. Today you may want to do something, tomorrow you don't know what else you want to do. So it's, for me, I believe in getting all you can while you can. And then the days you need it, all you need to do is pull it out of the portfolio and put it to use. Academic success also enhances critical thinking. It builds self-esteem. I have seen couples, married couples, who were having issues because probably the wife was more educated than the man. And the man began to feel, oh, she's trying to show me she's educated, she's trying to this and all. It builds self-esteem. You may not want to use it to look for a job, but you are getting it for your own self-esteem. It also fosters lifelong learning. If you see someone who succeeds academically, there's always a desire to learn more, but not necessarily within the classroom, but there's always a desire to gain more knowledge. So it fosters a lifelong learning. It also equips individuals with essential skills for both personal and professional success. So it's not just about success in the office, it's not just about success in the classroom, but beyond that, all-round life success. And this includes problem solving, time management, communication also. So today we'll be looking at how we can achieve academic success beyond just getting your A's. We'll be looking at study techniques, we'll dwell briefly on time management and then on goal setting. And another thing I want to add is that whatever I'm going to tell you today is going to be based on the Bible. And that's because in our quest for academic success, we must recognize that knowledge is a gift from God. The Bible teaches us to seek understanding and wisdom in all things. And as far as I'm concerned, that includes in our studies. So when we value knowledge, we honor God, who created our minds and purpose for learning and growing. Proverbs 18 verse 15 says, an intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. So if you are a child of God, it's only natural that you want to acquire knowledge, you want to seek knowledge. So it's important for us to remember that the pursuit of knowledge also draws us closer to God and enables us to better serve others. It's not just about ourselves, but it's also about serving others. And so we'll look at some ingredients for academic success. And the Bible emphasizes on the importance of diligence, wisdom, and knowledge in academic pursuits, encouraging believers to strive for excellence in their studies and applying their learning to glorify God. And when we achieve academic success, it's not just about us, we also glorify God. Our lives show that, oh, the God we serve is a God of success. We can't come and tell people, I remember when I was in uni, and then some people spend all the time, in fellowship, praying and all that. Then when it's time for exam, they are the ones having the carryover. How then do you tell people that the God you are actually serving is a good God? Is a God that blesses. Is a God that lifts people up when your grades are not showing it. For me, I believe that when you succeed academically, you are glorifying God. People look at your life. When you now tell them, come to fellowship, come follow me to where I'm going, that God I serve blesses, they can believe you because they are seeing it in your life. You are not carrying the class on your head. You are not going around with it. You are not getting extra years because you are failing your courses. You are not having carryovers. You are not having receipts when others are moving on. Because it's embarrassing. I'll use that word. Yes, it's embarrassing that unbelievers are doing well academically, then the believers are not. So when we succeed academically, we are glorifying God. So even if you don't want to succeed for your own sake, succeed for the sake of for the sake of the gospel, because there are people who are looking and whose lives will be touched by reason of how well you do. Proverbs 2 and verse 6 says, "For God gives wisdom; from his mouth come knowledge and understanding." So we see that wisdom and understanding comes from God. So if it comes from God, it has to reflect in our lives. And talking about ingredients for academic success, number one is diligence. Diligence. We must work diligently. When we think about it, it's essential to remember the value of hard work when we think of academic success. The Bible encourages us to work diligently in all aspects of our lives, including our studies, and that's by putting in effort and showing our commitment, as we demonstrate our faithfulness to God's calling. The character we build through hard work not only leads to success, but also other valuable lessons along the way. Together, we can put our best foot forward. We look at passages like Colossians 3:23, Proverbs 12:24, Ecclesiastes 9:10, Romans 2:11. When we talk about working diligently, I'll use my undergraduate days as an example. I just mentioned people who are looking at us, unbelievers who are looking at us, and then our lives are, rather, our results are not showing. I remember then, there are a lot of academic fellowship activities that we have to attend. But when it's time for exam, or rather after your fellowship activities, still study. Study, spend time studying. Make sure that there is time for everything. There is time, you give time to the work of God, you give time to your schoolwork. If you spend all the time, my husband used to tell me about when he first went into medical school. He said his roommates were always like, oh, come, let's go for fellowship. And he was following them, but he wasn't too, he said he was looking, he used to look and like, these people were not doing well, but I knew the background he came from. He couldn't afford to fail because there were people who were waiting for him to fail. So they would laugh and mock. And so he couldn't afford to let that happen. And he said the first semester, he noticed that all those people, that they all failed their courses, they all had carryovers. I was like, no, this cannot be you. I cannot follow these people. If I go with them, I will be a failure also. But these were believers. And what did they do wrong? They didn't manage, they didn't work diligently. The spent when I was in uni, then we had what we call the convocation. There was a space, open space, our convocation square. Then you could go there and pray for hours. I used to do that. I could go, but I always try to. I go for 1 hour. I will go and pray for 1 hour. I'll come back and study, maybe for another 1 hour or two. But I'll make sure that I don't use all my study time for praying. I don't use all my praying time for studying. Each one gets its own allocation. But the important thing is that as a student, if all you do is pray and you don't study, you will fail. And if all you do is study and you don't pray, you will fail. So there has to be a balance between the two. You must study well. You must do your bits so that when you leave it in the hands of God, then the results will show. Then talking about ingredients for academic success, we also look at the role of prayers. As we pursue academic success, we cannot forget the importance of prayers. By seeking God's guidance through prayer, we invite Him into our academic endeavors. It reminds us that He's ultimately in control, and He encourages us to lean in His own on His understanding, not our own. Let's commit ourselves to a life of prayer, asking for wisdom and focus as we study and strive for success in our studies. We look at passages like Philippians 4:6-7, 1 John 5 verse 14, Mark 11:20. When I was studying for my SSCE, for SSCE, the scope of study is a lot. Because you're studying for everything you did from SS1 to SSS1, SS2, then the part of SS3 where you did where you still do some schoolwork, and it was a lot. Usually other exams you just study for that term, at most for that session. And so I discovered that there was so much to study for, and the things we've done in SS1, we had moved ahead from there. And I remember then what I did was, before I pick up any subject to read, I'll first of all pray. I'll go on my knees, I'll spend time with God. I'll like, God, I'm about to study my chemistry. There is so much to study. I need you to guide me. And I did that for all my papers. And after I have prayed, there's definitely no way I'll be able to give adequate time to every topic, as in the same amount of time to every topic. So when I have prayed, God will just lead me on the topics to study. And I remember throughout my SSC exam, I did 8 subjects. All of them, whenever I enter the hall, it is only those topics I studied that will come out. If at all a topic I did not study comes out, it will be an optional topic. And there will be another topic that I studied that I can pick from. Maybe all these 5 questions, answer any 3. And then maybe those 3 will be the ones I spend good time on. But I noticed that throughout, for the 8 courses I wrote, whenever I went into the hall, it was only the the topics I took time to study that came out. Even in my English exam, I was very ill then. I had gone to the school clinic, and they gave me, and I don't know, the lady asked me if I was writing an exam. I said yes. I don't know why she still gave me an injection that made me very drowsy. I went from the school clinic and into the hall, and I practically slept all through. My classmates were worried. They will wake me up. Chilotam, write something. I'll wake up. I'll write. To small time, I'll discover I've slept off again. Somebody else will wake me up. But when my result came out, I aced all my courses. I had A's all through. And it wasn't because I knew then in my school, every exam, the first 3 positions will be announced on the assembly hall. The last 3 will be announced on the assembly. The idea was to encourage the first 3 and to do better, or rather to applaud them, and then to encourage the last 3 to strive not to be in that last 3 next time, because nobody wants to be mentioned in the bottom class every time. So that was the idea. And they always, and I know that the people they were expecting to get all A's in SSCE, we are not the ones that did it. It was silent people like us, all A's. And it was not because I was the best, as far as I'm concerned, it was because God was with me in every subject I wrote. And that is why we cannot neglect the role of prayers when it comes to our academic success. I said before, if all you do is to study and not pray, there will be a problem. And if all you do is to pray and not study, then there is also a problem. There has to be a balance between the two. And I want to also add this one as part of our ingredient for academic success, and that is having a very good attitude. Our mindset can greatly achieve our academic performance. The Bible emphasizing on the importance of having a positive mindset. When we approach our learning with joy and determination, we are more likely to experience success. Additionally, a good attitude will help us to remain resilient in the face of challenges and setbacks. And we look at Proverbs 17, verse 22. As a student, I want you to have this can-do attitude. Believe you can do it. It doesn't matter how others claim that subject is hard. Believe you can do it because you are not on it alone, remember? You are on it with God. So believe you can do it. Believe you can understand what you are studying. Believe that no subject is too hard for you. It's too hard for you to comprehend. It's too hard for you to. No subject is the exclusive right of others to pass. No. As long as you are studying it, you have the right to pass it. So develop a likeness for your course, develop a likeness for your teacher, develop a likeness for your school. If you don't like your teacher, trust me, it's going to be difficult to pass that teacher's course. So like your teacher, like your school. Be happy going to school. If going to school is a chore to you, you are going to struggle to do well. But if you come into school with a positive attitude, there is more likeliness for you to succeed academically. So there has to be a positive mindset. Don't just study to fulfill all righteousness. My parents say I should. Then let's just no. Let there be a positive mindset. That mindset of I can do this. That mindset of I want to do this. There is nothing that stops me from doing this. Those that are passing it and getting, they don't have two heads. Their God is not bigger than your God. So why can't you do it? So come into study, get into your exam hall, pick up your book with a positive mindset. Then be looking at different study texts. In fact, for me, there is no, when I was looking at this, I saw there are so many study techniques with some big, beautiful names. Seriously, for me, I believe that there is no technique that is cast in stone. Different techniques work for different people. When I was in uni, my friends liked to study into the night. I've never been someone that does this TDB, right? Yes, studying all through the night, it doesn't work for me. I don't study in the afternoon because the sun is too hot as far as I'm concerned. And I don't study late, so I pick what is best for me. And everybody has what works for them. I had friends who couldn't study in the evening. They had to study right into the night. So when it comes to study techniques, look for what works for you. What works for me may not work for you, but there are some generally helpful tips. And so what I want to share now is just generally helpful tips, which I believe works for basically, just find a level ground where you fit in and then go with it. One is setting the stage. When I say setting the stage, I mean switching up the environment. What helps you to recall? Like I mentioned earlier, I personally didn't like studying when the sun is hot. I used to joke about it then. I was like, the sun is too hot for me to assimilate. But I had people who would rather study at that time because it works for them. So find out what works for you, set up the stage, switch up your atmosphere. What atmosphere works for you? What helps you to retain? Change your scenery. Some people like a quiet place. Some people like a place with a bit of noise. Some people for me, I used to like a place towards evening when others have gone to class to go and study in the classrooms. I'm left alone in the hostel. I used to love it then. I know a lot. I will tell you this, try not to study on your bed. The bed can be very, very attractive. Try not to study on your bed. Even if you're in your room, maybe sit on your reading table and all that. But I love to stay in my room to study. I'll put a bit of music in the background because I prefer that. And I'll be snacking. As long as I have something to munch on, I'll be studying it to be flowing. But there are a lot of people who would rather not have music. They want that quietness while they study, but find out what works for you. Set the perfect stage for yourself. If calming music works for you, fine. If you want to eliminate every form of distraction, fine. But one distraction I will always tell students to eliminate is your phone. See social media, your phone, keep it away when you want to study. Oh, let me just reply to this one message. Just this one message, 2 seconds, I'm done. Before you know it, you spend 2 hours on that phone. So avoid every form of distraction. Set a perfect stage. Whatever, if going to the library works for you, do it. If staying in your room works for you, do it. If you have space in your home, you can create a study room, stay there and study. But set up a stage that works for you. Set up a stage that helps you to have a concentrate. Set up a stage that helps you to improve your memory. Then another technique is to read, recite, review, and retrieve. How do you do this? Active recall. That means as you're studying, you try to actively recall what you've studied. Ask yourself questions. Close your book, close your textbook. Go through what you have studied. Okay, how do you understand it? Try to explain the concept to yourself as if you're teaching it to someone else. Then try to recall as much as possible without looking at your textbook. If possible, get someone to set questions in your head. Possible questions, okay, what if the teacher asks this way? What if the question comes in this form? How do I explain it? That's called active recall. So after you've read, you try to recall what you have read by asking yourself questions, and then by trying to answer those questions without looking. Just like if you're a job seeker, if you're at the point of looking for a job and you're a job seeker, you're preparing for an interview. You know how you do it? You ask yourself interview questions, and then you give yourself answers. You don't just put in your head. There's a difference between I'm reversing it in my head, and there's a difference between I'm saying it out. When you say it out, it gives you the confidence of how you're going to say it in front of your interviewer. So that's the same way it is with when you're studying. Ask yourself possible questions that may come out, then try to answer it. That gives you an idea of areas you still need to pay attention to, so that you come back to these areas and this area, okay, you now pay attention to it. Then you go back, you keep doing that. Active recall on and off. Every topic you study, you do an active recall on it, go back. Utilize practice tests. You can even if you're not asking yourself questions, go to past questions. Try to use it to test yourself, know if you've understood what you've read before you move on to a fresh topic. And then if it works for you, if concentrating on your own is difficult, join a study group. A study group helps you. One, it will keep you awake when you want to sleep. When I was doing my master's, towards the end of my master's, concentrating became a problem for me because I was pregnant then. And I didn't realize that was what was causing the issue, but I just suddenly realized that I couldn't study for long. I'll study a little and then I'll sleep. And I did, and then one of my friends too, who was hers is that she's always used to reading in groups. So she called me one day, she was like, can we study together? I was like, that's a good idea. I said, please come over. She came over to my house and we began to study together. And I realized that when I was studying with her, I wasn't sleeping because I had like an accountability partner. You can't sleep when somebody is there with you. She was like, what's the meaning of this? I came here to study. Why are you trying to sleep? So we began to study together and we'll ask ourselves questions. She will ask me some questions after she has finished. I'll ask her, then we'll now find, this area, okay, I still need to work on it. And for the courses we studied together, I did so well. And I began to ask myself, why haven't you even been doing this group study before? Why have you been studying on your own all this while? So find what works for you. If concentrating on your own is difficult, find somebody who has the same study belief as you do, Someone who also, if you study in the afternoon and someone prefers to study at night, you cannot work together in a group with that person. But if your study preferences are alike, then you can work together. So find a group that works for you. Study in a group, and study in a group that will make you better. Don't study in a group that will pull you back. Don't study in a group that at the end of the day you are worse off than before. No, study in a group that like the Bible says, iron sharpeneth iron. Study in a group that when you are done, you are better than when you started. And then you also do what is called spaced practice. Spaced practice, spaced repetition. It's a learning technique where you review your material at increasing intervals. So you review the material soon after learning it. Then a few days later, you review it. A week later, you review it. This technique helps to move information from short-term to long-term memory. So if I've studied something now, I go through it. Maybe immediately, I just close my book, ask myself questions, know where I need to touch upon, do that. Maybe next tomorrow, I do the same thing. I just come back to it, begin to ask myself questions again. Know how much I have retained. Next week, I do the same thing. It's called paced repetition, spaced repetition. You come back to it after a week. Ask yourself the same questions again. Do you still understand? Do you still remember? This moves what you have read and understood from short-term to long-term memory. Then we also look at color-coded notes. If you have highlighters, highlight important points. Write down key points. Highlight key points in red. Highlight important information in yellow. Not just everything. Don't go coloring your entire book. Just important, things that when you want to glance through, when you want to do brief study, you just go through your highlights. It helps because those important ones have been highlighted. Very key points, key informations that you want to always remember. If possible, highlight them in different colors and have a code for each color so that when you see red, you know what red means. When you see yellow, you know what that is for. And then also study before bed. Sleep is crucial for brain function. You need your sleep. Even before you enter an exam hall, you need your sleep. Studying all through the night before going into the exam hall is never a good idea. I had a friend in my master's degree days who studied all through the night, entered the hall. It was one of our prerequisite courses. Entered the hall and had a brain freeze. She couldn't recall a single thing. Only wrote her name and she kept trying, and you cannot expect me to be telling you answers in the hall. I'm at risk of risking my own admission too when I do that. So nobody answered her. She came out, she was crying. I was like, what happened? She said she couldn't remember anything. Now immediately after she wrote her name, she went blank. In the end, she had to rewrite. In fact, she had to tell a very big lie. She applied for extenuating circumstances, that she just got news that she lost her grandmother who raised her. All those kind of stories. Had to work on the emotion of the school so they could allow her to write that exam. And what was the problem? She studied all night. You need your sleep. You need your sleep if you want to study and retain. So study before you sleep, because sleep is crucial for brain function. It's also crucial for memory formation and for learning. And a researcher in one of the universities in the UK says when you are awake, you learn new things. But when you are asleep, you refine them, making it easier to retrieve them and apply them correctly when you need them the most. And this is important for how we learn. It's not just important for how we learn, but also how we might help retain healthy brain functions. So when you are asleep, the brain organizes your memory. So instead of studying all night, study a few hours before you go to bed. Review the information you studied in the morning. That helps. And then seek help. Number 7, seek help. If you don't understand what you're studying, or if you're struggling with a topic, do not do it alone. Seek help from your teachers. Seek help from your classmates. Seek help from those who have gone through it, so that they can help you. And also review. I've talked about reviewing. It's always important. There are different methods of reviewing. It's always important to review your materials. Then take regular breaks. Take regular breaks when you are studying to avoid burnout and also to maintain focus. Everybody is different. I know people who can study for 4 or 5 hours at a stretch. Personally, I don't study more than 2 hours at a stretch. I have to take that break. So find what works for you, but always take break in between studying. At least when you take that break, mentally review what you've studied, rest your brain, do something different, maybe walk around, maybe take a drink, maybe take a snack or something, but take breaks while you study. And then reward yourself. This one I know a lot of us don't do it, but reward yourself. Give yourself that pat on the back and say you've done well. Encourage yourself. Let's also be in the community of people who encourages us. You know, so by incorporating these texts into your study routine, you can improve your learning and retention of information. Find what works for you, add it to what you're doing, and then help to improve your retention. And then I also want to add something. If you have done all that should be done, and you feel you are still not meeting up, you're not seeing the result, do not give up. Do not get discouraged. Take a break and start again. Isaiah 40 verse 29 says he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. This verse emphasizes God's provision of strength to those who are tired and powerless, highlighting his support for the weary. So when you think you can't do it anymore, just take a break, start again. Don't give up on yourself. Every academic journey comes with a set of challenges. The Bible offers us encouragement as to navigate these challenges. And then let's also remember Philippians 4:13, a verse we know so well. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We can do it. God will strengthen us and we can do it. So briefly, we'll look at time management, because time management is important for every student. If you cannot manage your time, then it's going to be a problem. Managing our time wisely is a skill that is essential in achieving academic excellence. The Bible encourages us to be responsible stewards of our time, allowing us to balance our studies with other aspects of our life. Other aspects of our life should not suffer because we are studying. But if we invest our time wisely, then we'll be able to open doors for learning and growth and help cultivate an environment that supports our pursuit of excellence. So Ephesians 5:15 and 16 says, let's look carefully then how we walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of time, because our days are evil. Yeah, so make the best use of your time. And how do you effectively manage your time? By implementing strategies like goal setting, breaking down large tasks, and many others. If you do that, you enhance your productivity and achieve academic success. So you can achieve you can do that by planning and scheduling. Create a calendar, prioritize your tasks. I can't remember what the technical name for it is called, but you prioritize your tasks in terms of what is important and urgent. What is urgent but not important? What is important but not urgent? And then what is not important, not urgent? Prioritize your tasks that way so that you will now be able to focus on what needs to be done when it needs to be done. Then we also manage distraction. Avoid social media. Avoid your phone. Keep it far from you when you want to study. When it's time for your phone, and if you want to pick up your phone, be strict with the time. Tell yourself, okay, I'm going on a study break and I'm going to maybe relax with my phone for 30 minutes. Stick to that 30 minutes. Be strict with it. If you allow 30 minutes to linger into 35, before you know it, it will become 55. Before you know it, it will become 2 hours. So be strict with your time, manage distractions, be able to focus effectively. And then study at your peak hour. Find your peak hours. Is your peak hour in the evening? Study then. Is your peak hour in the afternoon? Study then. If your peak hour is in the night, study then, but just make sure you take enough breaks. Take regular breaks. Reward yourself. Seek help when you need it. Seek help from your teachers, like I mentioned earlier, from your classmates, from your mentors, from academic advisors. And that will also help you with time management, because if you are spending all your time trying to understand what you know that you are struggling with, you're wasting time. But if you go to someone who is going to help you, you're saving time. So the time you're going to use for struggling, you're already using to assimilate. So know when to ask for help. And then we go to looking at our time. Our time is almost up. So we'll go to goal setting using the acronym SMART. SMART means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. When I say, I'll give example of it. Specific. Okay, you are studying. What is your goal? I want to study maths today. And when I'm studying maths, I want to study on calculus. I need to understand calculus better. That's a specific goal. So it's not a matter of I want to study. Okay, what are you studying? We just want to study. No, be specific. What do you want to study? Maths. I'm having issues with my calculus. I want to study calculus today. I want to study economics. Econometrics is a bit of a challenge. Let me do it down. That is it. So that is specific. The measurable, in that, okay, this is, I want to be able to make this, understand this formula and be able to practice it on my own. So when you are able to understand that formula and the concept behind it and put it into other examples, that is a measurable goal. It's a measurable goal. So you're able to, so when you are able to understand it, you're able to say, yes, this one I have understood it, I have ticked it. So you can take it and say, now I have understood, because that you have been able to measure. Not just I want to understand, study and understand. Okay, what are you studying? You don't know. How do you measure if you have covered the area you want? You don't know. No, you have to have a measurable goal, and then it has to be achievable. You cannot bring out your entire textbook and say you want to study it in one day. It's not achievable, especially some courses. Is if it's not achievable, you know. So go for a goal that is achievable, something you can achieve. Give yourself a timeline and make sure it's relevant to your study. I think most of our students have finished SSCE and NECO and JAM, but you may be preparing for your, is it pre-JAM or post-JAM? So what if you are studying? You are going to be studying what is relevant to that. That is the R of the SMART. What is relevant to that exam? You cannot be studying what is irrelevant at that point in time. What is relevant? Just like when you're studying for JAM, there are 4 subjects for JAM. For the course I did, it was physics, chemistry, biology, English. So you don't expect that I'll go and take my agri textbook and be reading them. It is not a relevant course at that point in time. You don't expect I'll go and take my economics textbook and be reading them. It's not a relevant course at that point in time. Because when you're preparing for JAM, there are 4 subjects you are studying. Focus on them. So do what is relevant. That is the R part of your SMART. And then T, time bound. Give yourself time. Not just about studying, there is a time limit, and you have to work within that time limit. So finally, we should reflect on the rewards that come from pursuing academic excellence. The Bible reassures us that hard work and dedication yields fruitful results. As we strive for excellence, we must remember that these efforts are not in vain. God promises to bless us for our commitment, encourages us to inspire to greatness in every area of our life, because if we achieve academic success, we are glorifying God. So together, let's pursue academic excellence, knowing that it brings glory to God and rewards to our lives. The plans of the diligent leads surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes to poverty. That's Proverbs 21 verse 15. So our excellence brings glory to God and rewards to our life. And 1 Corinthians 9 verse 24 says, do you not know that in all the race, all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. So study that you may come out with success. Knowledge, diligence, and heavenly perspective play vital roles in our educational pursuits. It is clear that God's desire for us is to seek knowledge and excellence, empowering us through prayer, good attitudes, and encouragement from one another. So through each of these topics, we are reminded that our hard work is not in vain. Like I've already mentioned, we are capable of achieving great things with God's support. Let's cherish the journey of learning, knowing that it molds our character and helps us to serve God and others better. In everything we do, we must strive for excellence. As Christians, as children of God, we must strive for excellence. As we make our choices in life, excellence will always stand us out. Everybody can do it, but the person that does it with excellence is the person that will always stand out. That's the person that will always be sought out. And I will end by reminding us that as Christians, we also always need to remember that ultimate success comes from God. It's not just our efforts. Our ultimate success comes from God. The Bible makes us to understand that it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. To this end, our relationship with God matters. By Matthew 6, verse 33, it says we should seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and every other thing. And when every other thing is said, this includes academic success. This includes retentive memory. This includes quick attention and quick understanding. Everything else will be added unto us. So if you have not given your life to Christ, I would like you to take a moment to ask God into your life, because the promises of academic excellence is our inheritance in Christ. And if we have him in our lives, then we can approach his throne of grace with confidence if we struggle in our studies. James 1:5 says, does any lack wisdom, he should ask of God, who gives liberally and without reproach, and it shall be given unto him. So I want to stop here and take any questions, if any. Thank you. Sorry, I had to do a lot of rushing, so I'll be able to meet up.
Hello, ma.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. Please mute your mic so that it will not re-echo again.
Okay.
Yes, I think once your mic is yes, so you mute your own mic so that because so it won't clash with mine. Okay, so we sincerely appreciate your time and the wisdom you have shared. Over here in Nigeria, Abuja, we are putting our hands together for you. We are clapping, and you heard us clap. Hello, ma. You heard us clap, right?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
yes, I did. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So we'll post our questions online. So maybe you pick our questions from the comment section and attend to us after today. Maybe later on, in case you come across our questions, then you pick our questions and answer.
Thank you
Okay,
very
that's fine.
much.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. We are grateful. So, do you have any question? Do you have any question? Okay. Thank you very much. Of questions. We are grateful to you and everything. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the effort. In regards to Joshua and Chimlo,
Thank you.
God bless you, man.
Thank you.
Okay, ma. Thank you, ma.
All right.
Await our question online.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, bye. And all the best.